Darkrai recently became usable in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet because it's now transferable from Pokemon Home. This has no effect on the official VGC metagame because they banned mythical Pokemon, but it does have an effect on the Smogon 6v6 formats which do allow mythical Pokemon like Darkrai, Manaphy, or Shaman. And in Generation 9 it raises an interesting question. Is Darkrai really that overpowered anymore? Historically, Darkrai has been a titan of the Uber's metagame, the metagame meant for legendary Pokemon. Its high power and speed were attractive, but the real selling point was its signature move Dark Void. Putting a Pokemon to sleep is terrifying when it's done by a Pokemon that strong. Darkrai's Bad Dreams ability racks up damage, but more importantly, it's free to throw off powerful attacks while you can't touch it. But Dark Void was nerfed entering Generation 7, where it now only has 50% accuracy. Hypnosis is literally a better move. You can see the fall very clearly when you look at the Uber's metagames. In Generation 6, before the nerf, Darkrai was one of the best Pokemon in the format, but in Generation 7 it became a C-rank Pokemon. In Generation 8 it didn't exist, and in Generation 9 it's a D-rank Pokemon. In the context of Ubers, Darkrai is a terrible Pokemon. But is it so terrible that it wouldn't be overpowered anymore in OU, which is standard play? There is serious discussion about dropping it, and there is precedent too. For example, Zamazenta is an OU Pokemon now because even though it has crazy stats, it wasn't too strong for OU. Similarly, back in the day, Kyurem Black was also dropped to OU before it had a good physical Ice-type move. It simply was not overpowered. Could Darkrai be the same way? Would it be obviously a good Pokemon, but not an overpowered one? Could it be something that can and should drop to OU? I'm here to discuss both sides of that debate. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Dungeon Hunter 6, a new installment in the classic hack and slash franchise. It's a free-to-play mobile ARPG with a unique hero collector feature where you can collect and summon the bosses you defeat. You play as a bounty hunter with multiple class options and slay bosses and make them serve you as you progress. The game features PvE and PvP game modes, including real-time guild wars and guild raids for a multiplayer experience. There are creative gameplay features like stealth missions, skill trees to customize your character, and an auction system to trade valuable items. Dungeon Hunter also takes its 3D graphics performance to the next level with stunning skill animations optimized for multicasting, ensuring the best visual experience and smoothest combat on mobile devices. Try out the game by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen if you're on a PC. With my link, you also get a special starter pack worth $50, including 10 summoning scrolls, 1 SSR Lieutenant Demonic Wolf, and 1 accessory pack. So what are you waiting for? Play Dungeon Hunter 6 today. First of all, the basics of Darkrai. Darkrai is built with an excellent 135 special attack, a very good 125 speed, and average defenses for an offensive Pokemon. Base 600 base stat total is above average, but not game-breaking. Darkrai has a wide variety of good special attacks, which means if it has the right coverage for a game, it can wall break effectively. It has Stab Dark Pulse, it has moves like Sludge Bomb to hit Fairy type Pokemon, Psychic to hit Fighting type Pokemon, Focus Blast to hit Steel type Pokemon, and it has Thunder and Ice Beam as generally good coverage moves. New to Generation 9, it also has Psyshock to hit specially defensive Pokemon like Clodsire or Blissey. For non-attacking moves, it has the devastating Nasty Plot, Hypnosis if you're feeling lucky, and Taunt. All things considered, this is a good move pool. There's nothing ridiculous about it. There's no overpowered move in it, just great solid options. The most common movesets are going to be taking advantage of Nasty Plot and those coverage moves. Nasty Plot plus 3 attacks is the most obvious idea, where you go for a Nasty Plot and try and sweep the game. Or you go with an Expert Belt or Life Orb and drop Nasty Plot for a 4th attack to give you even more coverage. You could also use a choice moveset with Trick, but the point is you want to be taking advantage of Darkrai's offensive diversity. Also notably, Darkrai does not have a way to boost its speed. But what are the problems with Darkrai? Why is it even being considered to be dropped? The main issue is that fundamentally, a pure Dark special attacker is a bad typing. You have to rely on Dark Pulse, a pretty weak move all things considered. In fact, if it wasn't for Darkrai's monster 135 base special attack, Dark Pulse as your main attack would be unacceptably bad. Darkrai does have excellent coverage, but all those moves are non-stab boosted, so if you're not hitting super effectively, they're weak as well. Now obviously the point of wide coverage is that you do hit Pokemon super effectively, but it creates the issue of 4 move slot syndrome. Darkrai has a lot of good moves, but you can only have 4 moves at a time, and if you don't have the correct coverage move versus the team you're fighting, you could have major issues with power. Nasty Plot and Darkrai's base stats save Darkrai from mediocrity, and Darkrai is honestly pretty scary. But Pure Dark is also bad defensively too for an offensive Pokemon. Only 3 resistances or immunities and weaknesses to common types like Fairy, Fighting, and U-Turn means that it can't leverage its typing for setup or attacking opportunities. Dark is an excellent type, but only when it's paired with something else. It's not good on its own. Those are the fundamentals of Darkrai, but what do they mean in an OU context? 2 of the top Pokemon in the tier, King Gambit and Great Tusk, both have a natural type advantage versus Darkrai. However, Darkrai outspeeds both of them and can hit them with moves like Focus Blast or Psychic. Roaring Moon is in a similar spot too. It's a top Pokemon with a natural type advantage to Darkrai, but can get hit by Focus Blast. Ninetales Alola has good special defense and a natural type advantage, but gets hit by Sludge Bomb. Same thing with Clefable and Enamorus. Zamazenta outspeeds Darkrai and has the type advantage, which means it can switch in effectively enough, really only worrying about getting hit by Psychic on the switch in. Iron Valiant is similar too. Type advantage versus Dark, and because it often uses booster energy, it will outspeed Darkrai. Dragapult and Goldengo both have a negative type matchup, but Dragapult outspeeds and can one-hit KO with a strong dragon type move. Then you start talking about neutral targets like Ogerpon or Walking Wake or Gliscor, where you have to break through with your relatively weak Dark Pulse or use a less common coverage move like Ice Beam. You can see where this is going. Darkrai can break a lot of the top Pokemon, but also at the same time, it can't. Proponents of freeing Darkrai say that yes, you're allowed to have wall breakers in a format, that's not a bad thing. Darkrai needs effort to enter the game because of its poor defensive typing, and when it does, it needs to get things just right in order to succeed. And even if everything goes well, Darkrai can never boost its speed, so you can always revenge kill it later with a faster Pokemon. In particular, a lot of Paradox Pokemon run booster energy speed. Iron Valiant was mentioned earlier, but there's also booster speed Iron Moth, and then there's some teams with speed booster Roaring Moon or Walking Wake. Just because Darkrai can break through Pokemon, that doesn't make it overpowered, it just makes it a good offensive Pokemon. If you can create these idealized situations where you have a Nasty Plot up with all the right moves, then good for you. That's how Pokemon works. If you play well, you get rewarded. There are plenty of Pokemon that look scary but can be handled in practice. Walking Awake looked terrifying at one point before people adapted, and so did Iron Valiant. Darkrai has enough drawbacks to make it balanced. The opponents of free Darkrai say that no, it's still a Darkrai. Darkrai's highs are too high. It can handpick its counters. Fighting against it just becomes a game of hoping that you don't lose to the right coverage moves. It doesn't outspeed every Pokemon, but it outspeeds most of them and hits them super effectively. There's no way to reliably stop Darkrai defensively without committing an excessive amount of resources. Every so-called counter or check has ways to lose to Darkrai. The constraint it puts on team building and in the actual game is too much. It'll dominate. You're underestimating how easy it is to get into attacking positions. U-turn is popular for a reason. Darkrai can also Nasty Plot on a switch out as you think you go to a Pokemon that can take it on. The pressure of that alone is too much. On top of that, there's Terrestrialization. Darkrai can get out of its type weakness into something like Terra Poison or Terra Fairy Terra Blast. Terrestrialization makes all setup sweepers very strong, and Darkrai is no exception. Darkrai can be outsped, but it's not a sustainable solution if you have to keep losing Pokemon just to get something in to outspeed it. Basically, its power and speed, despite Darkrai's demerits, are still too strong. Unfortunately though, we can't really know the truth until we see actual games in practice with Darkrai. My guess is that it would probably be broken, but both sides have valid points, and trying to figure out if it's overpowered or not is ultimately just a fun thing to think about until we get large sample sizes of games with it to really know. Realistically, that won't happen in the immediate future because DLC 2 is going to come out soon. There's no point putting in all the effort to test Darkrai when the meta is going to get overhauled with the next DLC anyway. But after DLC 2 drops, it looks like it's going to be the OU format for a while with no other DLCs announced yet. Once DLC 2 gets into full swing and other priorities are taken care of, like banning new overpowered Pokemon, I think it's a definite possibility that Darkrai is given a chance to be OU. There would be a time period where Darkrai would be allowed on the ladder and we could see firsthand if it turns out to be overpowered or not. Then players would vote on Darkrai, just like what happened with Zamazenta or Kyurem Black back in the day. To me, that sounds realistic, but not now. It would be in the future. What do you think? Do you think Darkrai would be overpowered in OU or not? Let me know down below.